Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I got sick of fixing bugs. So I'm currently working on 7.0.0 Alpha 3 of Rocks, and there's still a couple of other bugs left. Like if I look at the list here, there's two here that I have to work on. One of them, I might just submit a warning in a pragma warning disable or something like that in the code, because offhand, I really don't know how I'm going to fix it. And the only ones left are like these update documentation, a couple minor ones, clean up generated code. I have a whole idea for beyond 7.0 to do like what I'm calling version 3 of the engine to hopefully make it faster, do less memory allocation, so on. But that's where it makes the most sense to clean up the generated code, because there's just small things here and there that I want to make a little nicer and easier to read. So that's not as important. So I've also, just because I have now, for no reason other than one less tool, I am now using VS Code to do like all my editing of just my own, like you can see bands to listen to. Like I've had a list sitting in Notepad as a tab of bands that I want to go through all their catalogs. And so I've now put it in my OneDrive, but I'm using VS Code to do all my text editing and just have one less tool to think about. And I'm getting used to it, and I like it. And that may sound weird. It's like, you're a developer. How have you not been using VS Code? And it's not that I haven't used it. It's just for most of what I do, I'm either needing to use something like Visual Studio, or I'm doing simple-ish text editing, and that's where Notepad++ was coming in. But I started realizing, well, I already have a text editor that's pretty good and has a lot of support for a lot of different things, so let's just use VS Code. Sorry if you're hearing a, I think it's a leaf blower in the background, but you know, hey, neighbors, that's what happens. So sorry if you're picking that up a little bit. I don't think this mic actually has that broad of a pickup, but anyway, if you're hearing that buzz, I apologize. So in any event, VS Code, I'm getting distracted. I wanted to take a break from fixing bugs and do a task. Actually, hold on. There was something. Hold on. Okay, so I had to make a note for the recording of this episode, which will be 420. So it says, remember to talk about property init, create generator test, generator required. Oh, yes. Oh, that was painful to edit, because as I was editing it, I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not seeing this. So embarrassing. I think it was the create one. That was the problem. It was telling me in your test 0 CS file, which ends up being this thing, that I was using this and I should have nullable enable there is essentially what the error was telling me. And I'm watching myself as I'm editing it going, you dummy, how are you not picking this up? This is obvious why this test wouldn't run. I had it ignored, and that's why. So now it's back in, but I had to remind myself in this episode, make sure you tell people how much of an idiot you were, because I was. Okay, so back to the task at hand. If I come back over here, it's this one, which I realized in a previous episode, I was actually really close to figuring this out, but I was overthinking it. And that's kind of why I have the mindset of, if you ever have an idea, and even if you think it's relevant enough and you try it and you're like, I don't think this is going to work, it may be best just to say, shelve it. Like, just put it back on the shelf. Don't just throw it away. You know, to me, ideas are always something that you should just shelve, unless you are absolutely, like, if you're writing the language C# and somebody says, I want C# to do embedded Rust. Like, nothing against Rust, and put any language in there. It's like, why would you do that? It's probably, you know, maybe that is a good idea. I don't know. But if there's something that comes up and you say, I really, really think this is not appropriate. Like if somebody said to Rocks, I want you to start making a test framework in Rocks, like just to do general testing like NUnit. I'd be like, no, that's not what we're going to do. Okay. So maybe sometimes you try something, you think about something, and then you're like, nah, maybe not. But I think I was also watching myself when I was recording, because by that time I had figured out that I could do this. And so the idea around this is that if you have a mock object that has inits on initializers, and again, it doesn't matter if they're non-virtual or virtual, it just means that they have inits. That what you can do, and what I'm going to do is basically say, okay, the type, well, I don't actually have a type here. This was just some code that's saying, if I had a type that ended up saying, well, you have two indexers on it and there's an init on it, and what it does internally, I don't care. Okay, and that doesn't matter to me. But what I do in this constructor properties class is I'm going to implement IEnumerable for each initializer's parameters. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. Then I'm going to create read-only dictionaries for those, just I0, I1, and that's the name I'm going to give it. And then in each of those methods, I'm going to explicitly implement the enumerator. And all I'm going to do is just say for all the keys, return the keys. That's it. Okay. I'm also going to explicitly implement get enumerator, but just throw not implemented exception because we're not implementing it. We don't want people to end up calling this. That would be just a mistake. And then in the indexers, all I'm going to do is either create a tuple if I have more than one, or just use the value and have that create a key through get hash code. And then whatever comes out of that is what you're going to get. And then on the init, you'll store it. Now, again, what the mock object or what the internal underlying thing does, I don't care. This is just like a record, replay type of scenario. Okay. So I'll implement the indexers that way in this constructor properties or parameters properties, whatever it's called. And then what I can do on the setup, I could either do it on the instance method. Think of this as the instance method in Rocks, is do it there or do it as a separate thing where on initialization, I can set these values. And then in the mock on the constructor, what I will do is if there are any indexers with inits, I'll just do a for each on them, doing the cast right and everything else. They'll be, you know, casted correctly with unsafe as and all that other good stuff. Is I'll just get the keys out and then I'll read from this and I'll know that will be correct and say this. Now, as I'm looking at this, this does feel a little weird because I'm enumerating over something here by getting the keys, and then I'm also technically going back onto the indexer and reading from that dictionary, which I just got all the values from. But I tested this out and it seemed like it worked just fine. There were no problems. Now, as I'm reading this, if that would become a problem, what I could do is just say here, like keys.to immutable, like read them all out and then replay them. Because quite frankly, the number of times you're going to have an object given to you that has an indexer that has an init is going to be really small. And if it does show up, it's probably going to be one object. And the number of times that you're going to set this up with initial values so that you can pass them into the mock is probably going to be really, really small. So doing like a to array or whatever, a to method on here to enumerate all of them and then yield them back so that that's separate from reading from the dictionary. If that was even an issue, which I don't think it will be, that would be fine. That'd be a workaround. So that's the feature. I got tired of putting in fixed in my change log or just changed. You know, I wanted to do some added. I wanted to actually put a feature in. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. So the first thing I need to do, I do have this in a branch. Yep, I already have it in a branch. You can't see it because my face is down there, but I see the branch down there. Okay. And I already have a test here, which I haven't even run because the point is it's going to fail anyway. So what I want to do is say, let's go to the project here. And I believe, where am I doing this? It's makes matter, both creates and makes matter, because they both need to allow you to set requireds and inits. So they both do the same thing. And this might be a place where, again, with version 3, I would end up abstracting this out so it's one thing that I do in one spot. But that's neither here nor there. Where this would happen, I believe, is... well, it's going to be constructor builder and constructor extension builder. because this is where I see required init properties. Now, I also have to be a little careful here because this is where I'm saying require properties, but I want to do a separate one to say required init indexers, because I'm also ignoring indexers that are required to be set on construction. So this is actually going to fix both of those quite nicely. So I want to keep those separate because I want to say if you have any properties or any indexers, because indexers I'm going to need to like implement the IEnumerable and put in a dictionary, and so that'll lead me down separate paths as I'm creating this properties. Yes, properties. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to say this required init indexers, and I'm sure there's a way I could iterate over this once and separate them out. You know, I know that. I want to say here that it is an indexer and it is required, or it is an init and I can see it. Okay. Now, if that's greater than 0 or this length is greater than 0, then we're going to create this. Okay. And I don't think, well, this is, yeah, okay, up here, because I need to say this stuff first. Okay. So before we get to here, if required init initializers length is greater than 0, then what we're going to do is put in a line here. And you know me, I like to do everything in one line because that's just the way I am. Oh, so we want to say indent and then outdent here. Okay. No, minus, minus. Okay. And then we want to put in that space. And now what we want to do is do a string.join where it's going to be that. No, because we want to be spaced out like that. Yes. And now what we want to pass in here is all of the IEnumerables that we're going to do. Yeah, I know what I want to do. I just have to. So let's put in what I know I need to do, and then let's fill in the holes. Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a plan. So something sort of like that. So that's that, and then you're fine with that. Okay, except if I say IEnumerable of like string, what actually is that? Well, did it just put in, where is this from? System collections generic. Yes. So we want to say global system collections generic of IEnumerable. So that takes care of that. And now in here, well, the whole thing, we want to write the query first here. So we want to say var enumerable types is equal to this select, okay? And what we want to select out of here are the parameters as a referenceable name, which I'm probably going to change to fully qualified name. Maybe I'll just do that here because it should. But as a referenceable name with all the parts, except that if there's only one, we don't make it as a tuple. So we'll say if dot parameters dot length is equal to 1, we're going to do something except, no, wait, no. It's got to be a question mark here. Yeah. Oh my God. Otherwise, we're going to do string.empty, which is obviously not smart because we're going to make that better. Okay. And that's going to give us an enumerable, and then we can pass that into here. Okay. So what we want to say here is say enumerable types select. Okay. And then we pass that in to what we're going to be producing here, except here we have another embedded string here where we want to put in here that. Okay. And that closes that off, and that closes that off. There we go. Okay, so that will put in all of them, but now we got to figure out the right syntax here. So here what we would do is say parameters of 0 get referenceable name. Referenceable name. Oh, I need the type of it. Oh, I made something crash. Change signature code type. There we go. Yeah, now you're going to all light up and everything's going to be good. Okay. Otherwise, what we need to do is say this. Come on. Except we're going to be putting that in there. Okay. No. We're going to be making it a tuple. That's what we're going to be doing. Okay. And then in the hole, we're going to say string.join, our good trusty old comma, taking the parameters, saying select on the parameters, and now we're going to do a P because otherwise I'm going to get lost. The parameters, no. Oh yeah, that P dot type dot get referenceable name. Okay. Now, that's probably a little bit hard to read, so we're going to say that, and then we're going to move this over so we can read that as well. Okay, so what is this saying? This is saying we are selecting the fully qualified name, and then we're going to be putting that there, and then all of that is in the string. That's in that, that's that. Okay, and then here we're taking the enumerable types, and then whether it was one or a tuple, it just falls out. So that's the first part done. See, that's easy. I am going to bite the bullet and say rename this and say not that. Say this: get fully qualified name, because I am tired of saying referenceable. It's just a bleh. There. I actually was stuttering as I was doing that because it was, did you do everything? And see myself over here. It's like, are you caught up? Enable. You're fine. Okay, cool. So we should now have the first line done here. Now the next thing we need to do is we do that when we indent. Okay. Now what we want to say again is if we have required and that, now we need to make all the dictionaries. Okay. So, and I could do a for each here. I could just say, if you don't have any, it's just going to fall out. No big deal. But why are you doing an append line there? This is where it's maybe arguably a little bit hard to read. This is building all the properties, right? Yeah, because you put in, wait, this is, oh, this is the object initialization syntax. Yes, okay. And we do want to do this way. Never mind, I'm babbling. Okay, so we want to say for each var indexer in that. And we've already indented here, so we just basically want to do this. Okay, so writer.writeLine, we're going to do that like that. Okay, except, of course, we got to do that. And then here, we've got two holes to fill. This one, ooh. I think I want to keep this because I'm going to need this again. And we're going to say here to array. Okay. Because I don't have to do this. I will only do this if there were any. If it wasn't, it's just going to be an empty array. No big deal. I can deal with that now. And then I can reuse it down here. I don't have to calculate it again because I'm going to need it twice. So I want this as a 4 because I need the index numbers to be the same, and they should be. Convert to 4. That's fine. And then the indexer key for the dictionary would be the enumerable. Oh, come on. Enumerable types. There we go. And so here is, we would put that here because those are just strings, right? Yep. Okay. And then here we need to put in the indexer type get fully qualified name. There. Because that's the value, that's the thing that comes out of the dictionary. Cool. And now this, good thing I pulled that out because I needed to do that anyway. This needs to be AI. Now, this whole variable naming thing, is it possible that the object could give us? It could. It most definitely could. So we're going to want var naming context. Except I don't think we need it unless we're down in here. Because we don't, yeah, var naming context is equal to new variable naming context. And that passes in, well, the method or the parameters. Now, we don't because we're in our own type that we're generating. I don't have to worry about that here. So, okay, so I've now made all the fields. Great. And now I need to also say for each one, if there was one, we need to generate this code and then at the end generate that. Okay, so we need to do another if. I know this feels, well, yeah, I could do that in here. Like I have to do the for loop once because I need to put them there and then I'm going to come back over them again and I'm going to say, fine, we're going to do this, except that, and then that. And then the indexer here, am I going to need the, yeah, I'm going to need both again. It feels a little ridiculous that I have to do this over, but I'll just go with it. Okay. So again, what I want to do here is a write lines. Writer dot write lines. Okay. You're down there. Yes, you are. You know you are. So we're going to do that. Okay. I'm going to paste that in there. And this should be system collection, that whole thing. Okay. And then this is going to be, again, the indexer key. Yes. Indexer key. Oh, that's right. Okay. We need to do that. And then put that in here like that. Okay. Indexer key. And now this needs to also be fully qualified. So we need to say that again with the key and put that there. Say get enumerator. Yes, because we're just enumerating the keys. So in this case, we want to say, oh, holy crap. did it. I have I keys, you'll return key. Boom, and we're done. And now we've done that part. Okay. And now we also need to, so this is going to make it, with each one, they're going to be stacked up next to each other, which is fine. We can at least put a space here to say writer.write line. So at least there will be space between these. These are all going to get stacked up, but then we'll put another space in here. Okay. And another one, except we're also going to put in the final, which is this to say, and we got to do it that way because again, now it's just, if I say I enumerator, that's just system collections, right? Yeah, that's not. Okay, that's just this. And then I enumerable, the non-generic one, I think is also system collections. Okay, good. Because then we're going to come in here and we're going to do that. And then we're going to say just that. Okay, because you should, and there's no reason to put in a message here because there should be no reason why you would be getting to here. This is only to implement this because we have to, and we want to get, it is it's collections. Yeah, okay. All right, so now we've done that. We've got the space there. Those are all going to be, so we got that. Now the only thing we need to do, well, at least in this constructor properties, is do all these, and they have to be gets and inits because we have to be able to set them, and we have to be able to init them, and we have to be able to get them out as well. Except, well, yeah, we say init. We actually never say a get on them. Did you notice that? Because when we do the keys here, where is that up here? Yeah. We're going off of the field and we're getting the keys. And then in the initialization, all we're saying is initialize them. That's it. We don't, although now I just realized I might have to call them required because if they are required, that will be coming down to this part. Can you make a required property? I'm sorry, a required indexer? I'm not sure. We'll see in a moment. Well, why not? The day is young. Let's go to Sharp Lab. Okay. And then we'll say here, public class C, because we don't care. And then we're going to put that in there. Okay. And yeah. Just, I get confused. That's the one thing I don't like about Sharp Lab is I'm like, where am I? What am I doing? What is the meaning of life? Okay. So it does that. Can I say, like, required? Yeah, you can't say required for indexers. That's right. I was thinking that you couldn't, and I'm sure of it. So actually what I can do here is say you don't need the gets because down here in the mock, you're actually iterating over the keys, which are retrieved from the keys property on the fields from the dictionary of the field. So I don't need a get. I just need an init. This mock will do a get and init appropriately because it has to, except in the mock's constructor, this is where we're going to use it to say these are being set. And since it's in the scope of a constructor, that will be valid. So I'm out of time for this episode, but I'm going to do another one because I'm kind of on a roll here and I'm feeling it. And so I want to get the inits done here. And then I want to go back into the mock class and say, if you're given a constructor properties and you have these required, to then generate these two things because these should already be generated. And what they do, again, is irrelevant for the purpose of this conversation. It's just this. So that we will do in the next episode. I can't even talk. Next up, I'm so excited. Next episode, and excited about inits and indexers. Who would have thought? Next episode, we'll get this all done. We'll do some tests and we'll make sure that this is in and then move on from there. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.